Good evening. Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas budget meeting for 2025. Today is Monday, January 13th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I have a resolution. Let it resolve that the council rise and reconvene into open session at 6:07 p.m. and the council direct administration to carry out actions as specified in the closed session minutes. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay, excellent. Well, tonight's follow-up meeting from our December 6th budget meeting. Reconvene the staff, so welcome everybody, welcome the team, and thanks for all the work we've put into tonight. I'm going to turn things over to CEO Mills for an introduction, and then he's going to turn it over to Treasurer Stewart, and then we'll open discussion, but we'll kind of go by department. And once we get on a director, maybe or manager, we'll stick with them. And then if if people have made some notes and things, we'll keep it in the department. If we need to jump around, we will, but we'll kind of keep it a little bit departmentalized, at least at the start. And we can always loop back in, raise numbers up, raise numbers down, raise numbers the same, whatever it may be. So I'll turn it over to CEO Mills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, good evening, Council. Just a short introduction to thank Treasurer Stewart and Deputy Treasurer Mason, along with the Finance Department, for all their work. Yes, we did arrive on an initial number at the first budget meeting. We took some recommendations from Council. We went back with the Director's team, and what you see before you is a report with some recommendations for cost adjustments. And I'll now turn it over to Treasurer Stewart.
Thank you. Through Mayor Broad. Yes, so basically echo that. We did meet for our budget discussions December 6th, and we have had a chance to discuss the directors to find, savings in the budget. So we did identify additional savings. What we have here is $358,533 to be exact in cuts that we have in operating capital expenditures. These changes are listed under the discussion of the report that you have in front of you. We also included a summary by department of the potential changes for your discussion. And I guess to summarize, the levy change is now 8% from last year. The tax rate now is a change of 7.92. And overall, including the upper tier and education, it's a 5.66% change. So if council has any questions for any of the departments?
Yeah, so let's just start. We'll go through each department just on your recommendation and see if council agrees or have other thoughts in each department, and we can make adjustments from there. So we'll kick off with Parks and Rec, so a reduction of $22,261 in the tax levy with removal of the seasonal position. I know Director Jansen had indicated in prelude to possible retirement, this would be an area we might want to look at. I think this is a good place to come back to. And once we get someone on signed retirement, once we know a retirement date, then we can come back to council and start the execution of a replacement. But until then, I think this is a smart move just to leave this out for now. Any questions or comments on that one, and or any other questions for Parks and Recs at this time? We can always loop back, but we're on the Parks and Rec, so I know folks might have had some notes within that budget in Parks and Rec. Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So are we also talking about facilities here, or are that going to be the next? I just wonder because there's also a recreation programming section, and then
so we'll do facilities and recreation, so we'll do the three
in one section.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So do we want me to call out the other two as well, and then we can just discuss? Yeah. Okay. Sure. So then on the facility side, a reduction 131,483. Additional reserve fund transfer previously designated for the Justice Building project partially reallocated, funds available. And then on the recreation programming side, budget decrease of 14,139, decrease of 2 summer students in that area. So those were the three / discussion options Parks Recreation Facility and recreation programming. Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So can someone just explain the facilities reduction? Are we taking out of reserve to fund the Justice Building? Can someone just explain that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councilor Ward. With the facilities reduction, we had initially had a transfer to reserves in the budget for $200,000. But in order to make capital projects try and fit within a funding envelope, we reduced that number to 100,000 and then funded part of the Justice Building renovations with gas tax.
Councilor Ward?
Okay, I have a follow-up, another question, just regarding programming. So I did send this question to Parks and Rec before the meeting, but with a loss of the 2 students, what does that mean? Is that going to impact the programming? I hear a lot of positive feedback, so I just don't want to decrease service levels. Were these 2 in addition to, or?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Ward, we're certainly, running right on the cusp of a thin operation, but we're hoping to maintain our same level of service. Ultimately, it'll still have us at 4 lifeguards, which is 2 per beach. We were asking for 6, so 3 at each beach. So it just leaves us a little light on lifeguards, but I think we're still going to be able to maintain our swimming lessons, our lifeguarding, and stuff like that. And obviously, we'll have to flex throughout the year a little bit with if somebody's away and stuff like that. So I don't think it'll affect our operation too much, other than we might have to, if somebody's away, we might have to just pull it off to one beach and the other, but that's not uncommon with our bacteria levels flexing and stuff like that throughout the year. So we'll just work into our operation.
Now, with that vein of the summer students, we have, partly a question, comment, Treasurer Stewart. Of all our summer students for all our departments, we have their total wages in the budget today. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So we do apply for some summer granting through different organizations, and sometimes we get 0, sometimes we get 6, equivalent of 6 full-time students. I guess would council want to consider if we get funding, do we want that funding just to go against the summer students, creating a reserve at the end, or would we have an appetite to maybe go back and look at some of the requests? Maybe this one in particular, to add those students in if we got funding for it. It's maybe not a question we need to answer today, but it was a thought after thinking about the summer students, the program, right? How we could, it wouldn't affect the tax rate in any way, but we would get those kids working if we got grants. If we didn't get grants, then we're even. Councilor Ward?
Through you, Mayor, I'd be interested in that, especially through the programming one, just because our beaches are really busy in the summer and
Right.
water safety
Right.
is probably key to us. So I would be interested if that could come back at that time, but, yeah, for other student positions.
Treasurer Stewart?
Through you, Mayor Broad, we do have the same funding as what we had last year in the budget. So would mean if we,
Additional, okay, so we have the
Yes,
6.
if we get
6.
additional funding,
Yeah, if we get, so
then-
any additional from what the budget is today, then we should look at, maybe hiring. So if we get, we had 1 or 2 extra, then we could get 1 or 2, spread them out, and at least try and help some of the requests we do have, right? Could be an option for sure. Okay. Anything else on, Councilor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Brown, this would be a question for Director Jansen. The, not air conditioning units at the arena, the
Dehumidifiers?
humidifiers at the arena, can that wait?
Through you, Mayor, the average lifespan for a mechanical unit nowadays is typically in the 15 to 25 year range. Let's say those 2 dehumidifiers are heading into year 26. Can we delay it? Yes, but if they break, similar to what we saw in Chesterville, I know Cornwall's had to bring one in on a rental, it does close your arena because it just becomes foggy. You literally can't see the ice, so.
Yeah, I think, for sure. Spring and fall, spring and fall, we see a big benefit having good operational units in place for sure. We see the difference. I know the other municipalities, as you mentioned, have had issues.
Yeah, so even if one went down, you couldn't just squeak by with one for a short period of time even, or to finish the season, or?
Through you, Mayor Broad, it really depends on the outside air temperature, really, and how many people are in the building. So we might end up having to say, you can't bring any guests to the building. Like, we can probably keep the building not foggy, but then your parents can't come to the game, type of thing, right?
Okay.
Now,
Not to Jensen's so Dundas parents.
now we are seeing a little bit of a benefit of our electric Zamboni not having to open up vents and venting, right? So that is a benefit too, in that area, but, yeah, but, yeah,
So, but they're 26-ish years old?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, okay.
yeah, they're, Deputy Mayor?
Okay, so just reviewing, the reserve and the reserve fund chart table that you sent out today, that is the adjusted based on staff's recommendations. So I kind of look at reserves and reserve funds, and you guys kind of taught me this a little bit, that, we put money away for incidentals, we put money away for that rainy day, we put money away for our assets, be able to replace it. If we need, 2 dehumidifier replacements, then why don't we just cost that through the reserves versus going to taxation? I mean, that's what I think I would do, is I would just pay for that through the reserves, because that's what the reserves funds are for. It's replacement, it's needed. I think I'd propose doing that versus it going to, I'm just looking at the reserves, and the ending balance here, correct me if I'm wrong, 717,703, is that correct? It's gonna be our ending balance, so it's pretty healthy. I mean, when we look at what we had a couple of years ago, we went from 468, then we went to 7, by adding quite a bit in 1 year. In 2024, we added to 758. We're taking a little bit out this year because we need it. I don't know, I think I would propose
Now-
funding that through
Right.
the reserve fund or whatever. Sorry if I don't get my exact terminology, Sean, correct.
We are, now, side note, or to add to the conversation, we are trying to save a whole bunch of money for those arena upgrades as well, right? So does that, impact, money we're trying to save?
I guess Mayor Broad, to kind of to answer that question, to me, this is part of that upgrade as well. I mean, we're just, it's end of life, we need replacement. I think I would be comfortable about reducing and replacing that with the money we put away in the past. But just don't know what my other councillor thoughts are on that, but that's what I would propose.
What's the dollar amount of the, let me pull that sheet up. The humidifiers, yeah, it's on the capital sheet here,
$90,000.
90,000, yeah. Yeah, it could be an opportunity there, for sure, sure. Yeah, no, absolutely, Councilor Speed, yeah, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess this would just be, through you, Mayor Broad, just a question to Treasury, maybe. We've always heard before that we've had healthy reserves. Every time that our auditor comes in here, he always says we have very healthy reserves, healthy reserves. Now, I know it's hard to put a dollar figure on exactly what a healthy reserve is or a percentage, but there would be other municipalities in our area that may, like, we're about 8 million or so in reserves, they may only have 5 million in reserves. So what would determine a healthy reserve?
Through you, Mayor Broad. Well, he may be, our auditor may be comparing it to other municipalities, and we may have more in reserves than others. I would have to see. But you do also have to consider our asset management plan and what it's suggesting to have for reserves and continue to put in for reserves for future repair, replacement, et cetera. And based on that, our reserves aren't terribly healthy. They may be based on other municipalities that are still working to
And I
to
think
catch
if I
up.
remember, we asked that question when Jamie Pollock was here. We kind of asked that question right at that time, and he had a little bit of a calculation based on our finances, not based on our asset plan. So I think there's a happy medium in between. We may have good reserves based on what our annual budget is, but on an overall arching, what's our asset
Yeah,
management
'cause
deficit?
If I remember right, he said would a healthy reserve be a goal to have 1 year's worth of taxation in a reserve? So if there's about 9 million coming from taxation, you'd like to have about 9 million in reserve. Is that about? I think that's what he said, if I remember right.
Yeah, he had some conversations around, I don't remember, I have to go back, we can watch the video
Yeah.
Right.
on that one.
And possibly, but again, when you consider what we have as far as assets and what needs to happen going forward, as far as, again, repair replacement for those assets, it can be depleted pretty quick if something major happens
Yeah.
to, to one of the assets.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad, and I guess everybody's kind of saying what I'm trying to say, and you just nailed it on the head again. We put money away for replacement of assets, and to me, that humidifier is a replacement of an asset, that's why we put the money away. So that's why I'm kind of proposing that, like, it's for future, well, what's future? Is future 20 years down the road, is future 10 years? That's why I was just kind of proposing that, so.
And through you, Mayor Broad, agreed, it is there for that. We just have to remember that in our budget annually, we need to be able to put money into those reserves to keep
Correct.
building, yes.
Okay, so potentially we've got 90,000 on the table to fund through reserves. I've marked that down. We can loop back maybe a little later, Deputy Mayor, if that's okay, and say, depending what other things we might find, that may be an area, that might be an area where we want money somewhere else, that's how we do it, right? Yeah, circle back. No, I think that's the point of each area. So we identified in the 3 areas, we identified 22,000, 131,000, and 14,000. Counselor Ward.
I just have a question
Yeah.
too about another item I was wondering if we could put on the table. So we have the swing set on here for 29, sorry, trying to follow along here. I think it's 29,000, Director Jansen, am I right? Yes, maybe. I'm wondering if the Parkland Reserve can fund playground equipment? Or is that just the purchase of land? I thought we've used it before to fund like gazebos and stuff, but if we could fund the 29,000 for the swing set out of the Parkland Reserve, because that's kind of what it's for. So I just want to confirm that we can pull.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Ward, there is some restrictions as to what we can use that money for, and I believe it has to be, it's supposed to be for if there's growth in the area and the parkland is improved to support that growth or expanded. I'm a little hazy on it, but that's my general understanding.
So I guess my follow-up question
Yeah,
is,
go ahead.
can that be framed, or can somebody look at that and see if it can be?
Through you, Mayor Broad, we will look into it. May not have an answer this evening, but we will.
Thank you.
Yeah, Counselor Ward, continue, yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. So I see that we're putting 15,000, I know we talked about this previously, so we're doing 15,000 for the lighting at the Iroquois waterfront, for the waterfront committee. I guess I'm looking at the deputy mayor for this too, because maybe he has.
Someone's trying to.
And then then there's also $20,000 in that request in addition, so they're asking for 35,000.
Yeah, I
That
think
goes
they-
back to my Parkland Reserve question, if lighting would be an enhancement, therefore would it qualify? Maybe, I'm not sure if the swing set qualifies or the enhancement to the lighting, but maybe one of those could be looked at.
So Counselor Ward, just want to make my right note here. This the 30,000 in question, or the,
So realistically,
14,000,
Mayor, I guess what I'm
or-
asking is all of the waterfront committee projects that are proposed, and the swing set, if we can look and see if those can be pulled out of that parkland reserve. I'm not saying that we need to fund all of those projects out of there, but if there are some projects that qualify to come out of the parkland reserve, if they can come out of taxation and instead be funded through the parkland reserve, which is what that reserve is
Yeah,
for.
okay, very good. Okay, Treasurer Stewart.
Through you, Mayor Broad. So I do have something here. Thank you, Clerk LeBrun, for that. Parkland Reserve funds can be used to purchase park equipment, and it says these funds can, so as examples, these funds can be used for playground equipment, sports facilities. It doesn't specifically say for growth or anything. It sounds a little more general, that it can be used for playground, sports facilities, park benches, park lighting, and landscaping. So
So it sounds like yes
seems-
on all those
It
notes.
seems like it could.
So I would put
So
that
that-
question to council, I guess, then, Mayor, is if that is something we're looking at. That reserve's fairly healthy, and I know we have development coming online, which will probably contribute to that parkland reserve fund even more. So, because I believe every time there's a severance, I'm looking to staff that there's a parkland amount. So that's, it grows every year. So,
Yep, so potential transfer from reserves, the 29,000 for the swings, the 30,000,
I think I was just looking for the 15, Mayor.
the
But-
15,000,
But it's
the
up to
29 and
council,
the 15,
yeah.
I'll just make a note, okay, the 29 and the 15, okay.
Just one
Yep.
call. So just going back to, so the Parkland Reserve Fund is not part of the asset management fund, correct? Because it is funded through development, therefore it is not tied to asset management. So if we pull out of that reserve, I'm not pulling out a future asset management obligation. Can someone look into that? Just because I wonder if it's, we're not contributing to that fund. That's development contributing to that fund. So I would think that way we navigate having to worry about asset obligation contributions. Do you understand?
Yep,
So we're
yep.
not taking away from money that we would just have to put back in at a later date.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good question. Okay. Counselor Smith?
So just to follow up to what Councillor Ward is suggesting there, would there be an issue with that money flowing through a waterfront committee? Or would it really matter? Because it's committee related, that it shouldn't?
The
No, it shouldn't.
the municipality executes those projects, like, they don't execute them. We do it on their behalf, so.
Municipal home.
I would,
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Good,
I would
good
hope,
question, but-
like, my thought would be that it would just be capital items. So I'm not sure what, and I'll be honest, I didn't read too closely into what the changes are for the waterfront committee budgets, but my thought is that we would invest in capital assets, not necessarily like a event or something like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
That would be my hope.
So as long as it gets invested into an.
Yeah, it's a
asset.
Yeah,
capital,
that's
these
what
are
I would-
capital items,
Yeah,
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 yeah, okay.
yep, yep, yep. Okay, at this point, that's Parks Rec and Facilities Recreation Program. Okay, next one, landfill, I guess we'll just go on in order, landfill. So we have an increase of 38,000, which is the removal of the recycling revenue, and then a transfer for the landfill reserve has been reduced. So a small reduction prop test landfill makes up the balance of the change in the department. So that's an increase to our budget. Counselor Ward.
So Mayor, I would just suggest to staff that they just reduce the landfill transfer to the reserve. For the I don't understand, how is that budget more now than it was?
Through you, Mayor Broad, because we lost the 245,000 in revenue, we only reduced the reserve by 200,000, so that was 45. And there was a small decrease in the property tax, so that brought it to 38,000. So if you want us to further reduce the reserve so that it's to zero, we can do that.
That would be my suggestion to the rest of the council, but I will leave that. So the reserve, is this
Yes.
committee, this is committee only? I can just talk.
Yeah, that's
brief-
fine. That's
Okay,
fine.
okay. So I'm just wondering to staff, is that, so that idea of that reserve fund is to fund the closure, and then the transfer station would be separate from that, correct?
Correct.
And how much is in that reserve right now? Again, sorry, I have that in front of me. I shouldn't ask that question.
1.1 million,
Yeah, so, well, that's with the transfer of 250.
50. So that would
But
take
it's
that
only
to-
200,000 that we're
So it'd
contributing.
be 9. No, we took out 200. We would contribute 50 then. So we took out the.
No,
third-
we would contribute 200, well, minus the 338 cent, right?
That contribution to should be 200,000, not 250.
So does that reduce that 1 point, it would, right, the math?
It,
Wasn't it 450 and we reduced it by 200?
it was 450, we reduced it by, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it
Yes.
was 450.
Treasurer
Yes.
Stewart's
Now we're
right,
250.
yes.
Now we're suggesting it would be 212.
212.
212 versus 250.
If we take the 38.
If we took the 38 out. Yes, I wouldn't want, we need to keep contributing there for sure. This 38,000. Counselor Smith?
Yes, so, yeah, what was the target dollar that we need there for the closure of the Matilda landfill? To do the final cover?
My recollection is, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Smith, my recollection is that the closing was in north of 1.2 million of the Williamsburg landfill in 2021-ish. Huh? 1.8? I would have to look that number up.
Yeah, it was 1.2 million for Williamsburg, right? Yeah,
And then it was
So-
increased for Matilda.
right, it was gonna be more for Matilda, yeah. Yeah,
I think we should keep as much, personally, I think we should keep
Yeah.
as much money in there as
Yeah.
we can. I think I'm comfortable with that one.
yeah.
I guess I'm just confused why it's increasing though, right? Because if we took 245,000, because if it was 450,000, walk me through the math here.
Okay, so we were gonna transfer 450,000.
Right.
Now we're gonna transfer 250. So that's 200,000
200,000.
saving, because we didn't get 245,000 revenue for recycling. But, so the difference is 45,000, so we need to pay 45,000. But Treasurer Stewart says that it's actually not 45,000, there's a small other balance change to make it 38,000.
Savings on property taxes at the landfill.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So we're losing revenue. That's what it's. It's
But-
The blue box money, we,
Right. Oh, I understand that, I guess, but this is not also without the fee cut, so through you, Mayor, to Director Hyman, this is without the new fees that we would be looking at. Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
So let's stay with Manager Hyman, even though you didn't have to answer a question yet on that one. Public Works reduction, 84,000. So budget reduction attributed to reducing one summer student and seasonal hire and a change in funding source at the Capital Roads project. Any expansion on that required, or? Yep.
No, the only comment I'm gonna make, which isn't budget related, is, and I made this comment before, we need to really get serious about our village streets. So I'd like to see, March, April, committee of the whole meeting. I want to identify village streets that we should be considering over the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years on, shave and pave, and whether they've got sewers and water main. So I'd like to be aggressive on that and really start hitting these streets next year. I'm okay with keeping what's been proposed for 25, but in 2026, we need a good plan that's gonna serve both the rural and both, our village streets.
Yeah, as I recall, on December 6th, we did, you made the comment on that. Let's take a look at our village streets, because we were doing rural, pretty much, well, completely again in 2025. Manager Hyman?
So Mayor Broad, so that was for, in the first initial budget that was presented, that was for 2 summer seasonal staff members, not students.
Okay.
I still have
Sorry.
students in the budget.
Right.
This is a reduction of now down to one summer
I
seasonal
got it. Okay.
staff member.
Apologize for that.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
I'm
good.
still looking for the two
Yeah,
students.
okay, yeah, and I think we got that late. We'll get to that. We had the summer student list at the end. We'll get to that one. We deal with it all at once. Anything, Counselor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, for Manager Hyman. So with all the changes that were made with like the funding, there are no roads that got dropped. Everything is still the same, correct?
Through you, Mayor Broad, to Councillor Smith. In my first initial, we had Salmon Road and Gary on the list.
Right.
And we have since reduced it, or removed it. Through my ranking process, I had those ranked at, like, on the bottom. They weren't severe, so one
Yeah.
being the worst, and
Yeah.
I went down. So we were able to reduce those two roadways, but everything else is
The same as last
still
night.
as
Yeah,
presented, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments on roads this time? Okay. Next two areas, we can take a look at bylaw animal control, reduction of 10,000. Potential savings to animal control expenditures was identified, so small amount that we could just reduce. Any comments required? Staying in the same air department, building CBO, reduction of 29,000, so increased permit revenue, and a larger anticipated surplus from 2024 has been identified from the building department. CBO Turner, any comments or to share on that? None of this time? Yep, pretty self-explanatory. Any questions for Andrew on that one? Okay. Administration and corporate service, reduction of 87,000. And other comments. CO Mills.
Yep, so through you, Mr. Mayor, there'll be that reduction and a further reduction of 87,321.
So we're going to, looking down at the next line, we had a potential of reinstating an administrative position, but at this time we'll cut that administrative position, so doubling the reduction of the HR position we talked about and the 87,000, so my math is right, that's 174 versus 87. Anybody else have any comments or questions on the admin side? Nothing yet, okay. And then taking a look at, overall, we had requests staffing, so we kind of summarized all the staffing here. So going through the changes the departments did make, we would have no new administration positions, no new students. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back here to, apologize, fire and emergency services, so Fire Chief Jeremy Aldred Hughes is here. So budget reduction of 18,478 in fire service attributed reduction number of student personnel. These students were planned to contribute to administrative operators facilitate, right? So the fire service has deducted that off their budgets. I think that's self-explanatory, which will lead me to the statements I was saying, was no new full-time administration positions, no students for fire emergency services. The request was 2. No new students for facilities, their request was 2. No students for programming, which was 3. No seasonal for recreation, which was 1. But add 1 summer students for public works, as Manager Hyman just indicated to. With the caveat too of if we get extra, we kind of discussed that earlier, if we get extra student funding, we could add a couple more students in if we got the funding, right? So,
The last,
Steel Mills, yep,
through you, Mr. Mayor, and then the last line, the fire prevention officer.
right.
After that,
And
sorry.
then the fire preserves officer request to fill the previously vacant position, the training officer remains in the draft budget, so, yes, yeah. Yeah, and we certainly need those positions. We did get the fire master plan. So we certainly understand we've got to get that staffing up a little bit at this time, and getting those roles filled. That role filled is certainly important for us to make sure we have that in the budget. And
It's a
continue.
replacement.
Yeah, it's a replacement.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a replacement of the position we already had.
yeah. So then other budget notes, we also came up with included in the capital budget for the Iroquois Plaza and the sewer relining in 25, staff proposed that we do the engineering versus the amount, right? For the Morrisburg Plaza, correct, yeah. Correct. Yeah, move that to 2020, yeah, so then Morris Plaza engine design to prepare for full repair in 2026. So, yeah, Councilor Ward?
So I guess this is a question of council. So we're debt financing this in 25? Yes? So that means how are we funding the debt payments? We still haven't decided that as a council. So I think that needs to come back. I'm fine with that, like, that's what I proposed, so I'm fine with it, but I think that needs to come back soon to talk about, because realistically, we're gonna have to start paying for it in 25. No, it won't until 26, so it'll be a % on the budget in 26. So, we're
Okay.
just shifting it to 26 is all.
Shifting at
That's all, yeah.
26. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I was very vocal, you've been very vocal. We want to move forward with this, but I think there's still a bigger picture here. I think we're just giving little bits and pieces of what we're doing. I think we need, what exactly are we doing? Because all we talk about is the water and the wastewater, but what about the asphalt? What about the concrete? How are we paying for that? I think this is a bigger picture here than just with the snapshot that we're getting on just the water and the wastewater. I think we should I'm okay with moving forward with the design. I think we should plan for doing it, but I think I was not 100% sold that we should fund this through debt or financing, or because I thought we were supposed to come back with a fulsome report on all of it, not just piecemealing this and that. So I think we need to still do that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if the whole project in Morrisburg is gonna cost $4 million, well then how are we funding that? Not just, well, we're gonna fund 2 million here and 1.5 here, and it just comes at us as it comes. I think we need a full report, a full picture, and a wholesome discussion about the whole entire both projects.
Yeah, and an abundance of caution, I did declare pecuniary interest for both projects. so-
Understood,
So I don't
yeah.
want to necessarily comment, but I think Deputy Mayor, if you could lead that
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm
after
leading.
tonight, like
Yes.
lead that charge if you don't
Yes.
mind, and then.
Yes, I can. I just talking in
Yeah,
general.
in general, no, and I agree with
In
you.
general,
Yeah,
I
it
think
did-
we
from
need
a-
to have everything all in and how we're funding both Iroquois and Morrisburg, and what does that debt looks like? Are we gonna fund some of it out of reserves? Is there a levy? We talked about a levy, how are we paying it back? I just think there's a bigger picture here than just what we're seeing here in the snapshot picture here.
So yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, to the deputy mayor. So included in the budget here is $1.5 million in debt financing for Iroquois. This would include not just there's the estimate that we have for relining the sewer line. It's about $150,000 to $200,000.
Okay.
So we're also including the direction that we got from council during the committee of the whole was to do Iroquois all at once. You guys didn't want to phase it over 3 projects. In order to include that in the budget, we've included it in the budget. What staff would like to do is at least start finalizing the design, finalizing the tender, because if I can get the tender out, then I can start presenting, then we can start sitting, having that fruitful discussion with a lot less what ifs up in the air. What is exactly going to cost? What will the debt payment be? So if I'm able to, if we accept this budget as it is today, I'm able to put out that tender, hopefully in the next month, so I can get competitive numbers for this year, because if we wait 3 or 4 months, this year is over. So hopefully we can get numbers out this year. We can start, and then once I get those tender results back, then we can start having those really down to, like, this project is not gonna, like right here, it says 1.5 million. It could cost 1.3, it could cost 1.6. Do we know that exact number? Not until it goes out for tender. And then at the same time as we're approving that tender, we'll be approving the loan. We'll be having the discussion as to, with regards to how we want to fund the debt in the following budget the next year. But including it in this year's budget will help us make that first step of going out for tender and starting those conversations.
Okay, I'm glad you're saying that, David, because that's exactly what I want to hear. I was just getting a little bit nervous that we're trying to make decisions on piecemealing this program together. I want to get, to your point, and I think to my point, we want a full picture so we can have a fulsome discussion about it. And then we can make that decision on how we're going to move forward together.
And then, yeah, through the mayor here to the rest of council. So the other half of this is that we are kind of delaying Morrisburg. So originally what you guys saw in the wastewater budget was to reline Morrisburg. If we are going to go ahead and start redoing surfaces and everything like that, we'll avoid relining and we might as well do it all at once. So that's going to be a very large project from a scale of a wastewater. We're going to look at removing some infrastructure. There's a lot going on there, and that's where you guys are seeing the engineering fees split between water, wastewater, and taxation. That way, each person's I'll build the tender for engineering in such a way that we can allocate the funds appropriately to ratepayers versus taxpayers.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that effort. And so we're thinking kind of March, April to come back with a committee of the whole meeting to have a full discussion on that. It's probably, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, that'd be good. That's good. Happy to see the projects going forward as certainly as community residents talk about those things, these projects that are important. So that's good. Councillor Smith.
Through you, Mayor Broad, so just to follow up to that, I don't know if Treasury would have this number off the top of their head, but if we were borrowing money right now, what would we be paying for an interest rate? I don't know if you have that or not.
Through you, Mayor Broad, we do have an interest rate. It's from December, I believe. Do you have that ready? So a 10-year was 4.09%, and I also did a 20-year. 4.53 is a 20-year.
Say that again, Julie.
4.09% was for a 10-year amortization, and 4.53 is a 20-year.
And so what would our repayment be on an annual basis roughly?
Okay, depending on what we borrow, what's our example?
Just do it for every million, then you can just times it, right?
Correct.
So for every million, payments would be $61,400, about $61,000 a month.
No.
Oh, sorry. No, that's a lot. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm looking
She's trying to
over
read
your
my
shoulder.
spreadsheet. Yeah, so for a 10-year amortization at 4.09% on $1 million, it would be $122,845 annually. And for a 20-year amortization at 4.53, it would be awkward silence. Still loading. Would be $76,551.
And how much would we be paying in interest? On the
So for the 20-year, you would be paying $531,000 in interest. And on the 10-year, you would be paying $228,000 of interest, $228,452.
Okay, well, through you, Mayor Bro, like you say, I think I can't wait to have a big, full discussion on the direction we need to go and how we're going to fund this, the total projects, not just piecemeal. Thanks.
122. For the, and then that's how much interest was 229. Yeah, 229 was the interest. And that's on $1 million, right? So if it was 2 million or 4 million project, just times everything by that. Okay, so far, because there's still one department to discuss, and that's our own department, councils, grants and donations. Treasurer Stewart, based on your initial 358, we also, savings or changes, just verbally confirm this is the new updated math we want to look at. Take out 87,321 for the admin person, 90,000 for the dehumidifier amount, 90,000 from reserve, and then the two things Councillor Ward mentioned up from the Parkland reserve, I think 29,000 and the 15,000.
221, roughly.
So that's 221, roughly? Deputy Treasurer? Yep.
Yes, and you also mentioned, Mr. Mayor, to reduce the landfill transfer by the $38,000, or are we leaving it?
We'll leave that.
Okay.
Okay, leave that. Yep. Councillor Vino?
Just along the same lines as the deputy mayor and the dehumidifiers. I realize it's not as long-term of a thing, but the, of a asset, I should say, but the $60,000 for the Iroquois Beach Cube replacement, I mean, that kind of follows the same idea of the reserve transfer. That's kind of what the reserves were there for. What's the lifespan of the, I guess you're replacing all of the cubes? What's the lifespan on that?
Through you, Mayor Broad, to Councillor Vino. Perfect world, I think I hope for 8 to 10 years.
I guess, Counselor, on that one, just my mindset's a great idea, but I don't look at that one as we need to do that. I look at the dehumidifiers as that's a essential versus that's more of a nice to have. That's why I'm not 100% sure we should take that out of reserves, but
I guess my thing would be, so that's essential to that facility that the community uses, and then the cubes are essential to that facility that the community uses. I guess maybe not essential. I guess you can swim at the beach without the cubes, but you can't skate. I can see your point.
yeah, that's all I would, if I was gonna
Yeah.
debate it hard, I'd debate that one hard, yeah. And the percentage of users for our arena versus percentage of users for that cube is probably, that outweighs that by a long
I'd like to
shot.
see those numbers actually, but the beaches are pretty
You've
busy
you
in
haven't
the
been to a
summer.
hockey game lately, there's a lot of people go through there today.
Okay, well,
Anyways,
we'll see what we get the number at the
Yeah,
end
we
here.
can, we're gonna do a little circling here because we're gonna deal with grants and donations, right? So, so Deputy Treasurer, do we kind of have a rough estimate where we're at?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, with the current discussions we've had, the levy would fall right now at $9,389,000, which, as you mentioned, was an additional cut of $221,000.
And that gives us a percentage-wise,
Percentage-wise, that would be just over 3,
pardon?
just under 3.
Yeah, I had calculated 2.5-ish reduction. So that'd bring us to a 5.5.
potential tax increase of 5.5.
Just looking at,
Yeah.
just looking at our,
From the original, from the original 12, we're at 5.5. Okay, let's just hold that thought, and,
so this gets reduced, that gets reduced. Yeah, no, understood. Yes, understood, yeah. And now you're talking grants.
yeah, okay, so another big department and area of request is municipal grants and donations. So the requests are two-sided, one being cash required, and the second in-kind work or donations that are significant as well, that are either loss of fees or manpower hours to do work. So, just to recap from the, Clerk LeBrun, you don't mind if I just talk it, like, you're fine with that, okay? So just, we have a summary. So we have $80,000 in our budget line. We have committed, previous council committed, 50,000 annually for 10 years to the Dundas Manor. And this marks year 6 of that commitment. So that leaves us with $30,000 in that budget line. And today, we have 28 applicants for a request of $72,000. So we're nowhere near balancing that budget line in any way.
You said we had 30,000 in that line? No, that was what
We have 30,000. We have 80,000 in the 80,000 in the 2025 budget. We've committed 50,000 Dundas Manor, so we have 30,000 even left. Yeah. Based on 80,000 in the budget.
Yeah, no, understood.
Yeah, we can always change that number. Of the 28 applicants, in general terms, all community, South Dundas community events, activities, requesting assistance. A couple of groups such as the Iroquois Marine Search and Rescue, which came and gave a delegation. J.W. McIntosh on the transport driver, which we've been partially supporting their budget over the last couple of years. And then a new request from Habitat to Humanity. Cars was here, gave a presentation about that. So those are kind of 3 organizations. Otherwise, a lot of them are groups within our, just within our community doing activities. So I'm gonna open it up for any suggestions at this point, how you'd like to proceed or take a look at this. I have a couple of thoughts as well, but Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Just on a quick question, because we did fund some of the activities for the Matilda Rec afterwards. Is that included in the 2024 request approval?
Yeah, those are the same amounts they requested, right?
Yeah, I just
That we
wanted,
went back and funded later,
yeah,
right?
so
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Just wanted to
yeah, I
double
think
check.
so. Yeah.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Brown.
So, a year ago, we turned down the Matilda Rec ones.
Yes.
Because of the, from the
funding
the
that they
funding they were
received.
gonna get that they didn't get because that we went back and I think we funded that amount. Those were those, I think Deputy Mayor's question, were those the 3 amounts that we did have funding halfway through the year?
Would-
Yes, right, I think so. I think they are the 3 amounts,
Okay,
yeah.
that's just,
Yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, yes, it was 2,000.
We did 2,000 and now they're asking for a little more. Yeah, that's right. There's one thing we didn't do. Okay.
So,
Yeah, Councilor Ward.
so, to the Treasury then, that 16,960 is what's estimated to be left, right, for 25? Just based on your reserve calculation?
Through you, Mayor Broad, for the south, yes, it's about 17,000 will be available.
So I think council knows where I'm gonna go with this. So they have about 17,000 that they would have access to because they qualify as they're in the zone. So my suggestion would be that we highly recommend that they fund their events through that funding that they have exclusive access to.
Yeah, so say in the 2,500 that they've requested or through 3,500, what do we got here? Well, there's more than that, actually, 4,000.
almost 5,000. 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then that would leave remaining funds for others to apply should they see fit. That would be my recommendation to council about that one.
Yeah, it's 3,000, 500, 1,500. Oh, no, it's 4,000. No, you're right, it is. It's, yeah, 3,000, 4,000, 4,000. Yeah, leave the in-kind. Yeah. So then, in essence, what we're saying is, they're getting close to 17,000 from us from the fund. So include the 4,000 you request. So take it off this list and just fund it through that money.
It'll have to go to the committee. I see the clerk looking at me that way, so, but
Right,
yes,
that'd
but that
be-
would be my suggestion, and that,
Okay.
and I can take
Yeah,
that
no,
to
of
Wayne
course.
there and suggest that to them.
Couple bigger items maybe we should take a look at. So JW McIntosh, the driver transportation. We'd funded them 10,000 in 2023, 15,000 in 2024, requesting 24,300. Councilor Ward.
So through you, Mayor, I'll say the same thing that I said last year. I have a problem funding a full, like, it's not a full-time position, but it is a position with another organization. I understand the need for it. I just feel that we're funding a position, like, why would we not just hire, like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. I think that the full ask is too much for a donation. But I'll leave that for the rest of council. Like, I would like to see it either go back to 2023 amount or less, to be honest with you, because we've been funding it for multiple years now.
Councilor Avino.
Yeah, I think the idea of that one in the beginning was there was a need and they needed help kind of quickly, but now it seems to be just gonna keep going that we fund it. And I think that we gave lots of time to try and find, I guess another method of funding or another method of doing it. But yeah, I think it's a little tough. I do see the need as well, but for taxpayers to pay for a paid position is a tough, I follow your sentiment on that one.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I disagree on that one a little bit. I mean, this is a direct impact to people in South Dundas that uses this facility, that uses this, the JW McIntosh. I don't know. I think we're funding the Dundas Manor at $50,000 and not even blinking an eye. And I think this is just as important. So I'm very comfortable at the very least supporting what we gave last year at $15,000. And to be honest with you, continuing that. And I just think of all the people that have used and need it and require it. It's not in our back door, it's in our front door, it's in our door. And again, I think there's other things on this list that, to be quite frank, we don't need to fund. That's more of a festival than it is anything else. And I think this is one of these things that we should be supporting.
Yeah, I'm, of mixed, thoughts. We continue, I know we're doing some work at the county level to, on social programming to, make sure the funding is coming from the right places. Certainly this does impact South Dundas residents directly, right? That people using the service, are our neighbors, are our family members that are gonna be in need. I certainly think we should fund it some. I just can't see us doing the full amount. It's too much for us to take on, I think, at this point, but I think we should be funding it in some way, for sure. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, see, this was a tough call because you are correct. It's right in our back door and this directly impacts people in our area like 100%. But at the same point, to Councillor Ward's point, like, this is healthcare. This is the responsibility of the province, not us. We're asking everybody who pays property taxes to now help fund healthcare. And as much as it's needed, it's a tough call.
Yeah, we're having the
because-
same conversations at county council and the social development, United Way, a lot of other programs that are doing good work
Yeah.
with people, but it's
Yeah.
ending up on the municipal taxpayers that only have access to revenue through taxation of municipal property taxes. We can't sell more gas and get more. We can't have more exports and make more imports, whatever, all those other things other governments have. This is the only revenue is municipal taxes. Councilor Ward?
The way I see it as well, Mayor, and this is just my 2 cents, is that, tax rate directly impacts people as well. So if we continue, and it's not just JW McIntosh, there's a slew of social services that have requested funding here. If we continue to fund them through the tax base, we could be putting someone in their services, essentially. We could be pricing them out of affordability. So I think we have to be mindful of that, and I agree with Councillor Smith's point, like, there's so many of these asks, like, I'm gonna continue on the
Yeah.
list here, so Iroquois Marine Service Search and Rescue, I 100% think they're doing a great job, good for them for taking that up, but the $5,000 request for operating expenses, again, that's a federal regulated service that we are now subsidizing. And if we start at 5,000, my concern is that next year will be 5,000, the following year will be 5,000, and then again, we're subsidizing federal money. And I'm not trying to be, not speaking ill of what they do, because I think they do a great service for the community, but these are things I think we need to advocate for as well at our level through Eric Duncan and Nolan Quinn. Like, I just have that's an example, and then the same with Habitat for Humanity, right? And I know you guys are having these conversations at the county level, but I'm not sure what to do with these, because I feel that they are already paid for in our provincial and our federal taxes. And if they're not adequately funded that way, then I think they need to be reconsidered and reallocated properly at that level. But I'll leave that the rest of council. I'm fine with subsidizing part of JW McIntosh's request, like I said before, so that's fine, and maybe some of the others we can fund a little bit of, but these full asks they're unaffordable. And my point about festivals, to the deputy mayor's point, is I actually think those are a little bit more of a donation, just because everyone in this community, and I say everyone, can go to these events, right? Canada Day. And I understand your point, but, I'm not currently in the use of JW McIntosh. I might one day, but I'm not currently. So I see these grants and donations as a community-funded event you can go to for free. Some of them, not all of them, but most of them.
And I don't disagree with you on the festivals, but the last time I saw it, the 2B committee gives out money in the organization. I think other ones do as well. So we're giving money to these organizations to turn around and give it back to the community. So to me, that's not what our role is. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to support them, but I do have a little bit of fundamental issue of getting money, just be able to give it back to somebody else. I mean, we might as well go and do that, right? I 100% agree with you on the Marine Search and Rescue. It's a separate organization. I think they're gonna do good, but, I think they should be self-supportive. I think on some of these others, same way. I agree with you when you talk about the Matilda. Maybe it's me that has a soft spot for JW, but again, that is a direct benefit to South Dundas residents, and I think it's something that we should support. And again, my ask would be not for the full, but my ask would at least be to support the same amount as last year.
Okay, in general terms, in pencil, with my pen, if we just said that was 15,000, so that's a reduction of 9,000, right? We can talk more, okay? And then the 4,000 from the Matilda is gonna come out of their other funding. What other dollar amounts, two things. One is, what other dollar amounts should we not do or reduce? And/or is there any appetite to add a few dollars back into our budget at all? That would be the two things you could do, right? Decision, Councilor Reno?
We haven't discussed the critical repairs program yet.
Yeah, no, we gotta go through more of them for sure, yeah, so
So
go
that's
ahead, yeah.
one, so that one there, it kind of comes back to the same point of it, we were talking about healthcare, that's housing. That's a provincial and federal issue, to me. It's the 10,000. Right below JW Mac.
Yes, the Habitat for Humanity, yeah, exactly, yep, for sure, yep. Yeah.
So while I definitely see there being a need, again, that's a provincial and a federal issue, that's a housing issue. Like our ratepayers here, I don't believe should be paying $10,000 to fix somebody else's house. That's the way I look at that. And I feel like I wish we could. I really do. But I think it's, it's tough.
Yeah, thank you. And Counselor, I guess in my perspective, I think with us, there's other ways of being able to support habitat in property, giving them land, in-kind, stuff like that. So I agree with what you're saying there. We have been generous with, I think, 2 or 3 properties. David, you probably had, 2 properties, one in Williamsburg, one in Winchester Springs. I think that's where we need to continue our support for that. So I agree with you on that.
Okay, Iroquois Marine Search and Rescue. Dollar amount,
So through you,
Councilor?
Mayor, I'm fine with waiving the dock fees.
yes.
But that's where I would like to draw the line, simply because, again, I go back to this is a Coast Guard mandated service, federal. I don't think we should be funding it.
2 other ones that come to mind, to the deputy's comments. Gallup Canal Music Festival that sells tickets and is a profit or a for-profit, I would say, organization. And then to your point of the Tubi weekend, like a lot of money is donated back, and I know donations come in and then money goes out, but it's 2 things we could think about, I think, on that. I don't know the appetite to give a little bit, to give them some advertising money, or did not fund at all.
But so through you, Mayor, we gave them 500 last year, and they asked for
Yeah.
2,500.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that would,
500, mean let's make it 500, or?
just like we did last year. I
Right.
don't know if the rest of council.
Yeah, I'm just, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, I agree with you on that one, and to be honest with you, on all the festivals and that, I think I'm okay with giving the same amount as we did last year, you know? Yes, it's not to their full ask, yes, they give money back, but if it does help a little bit with the advertisement and stuff, and we are support of that, I'm okay with giving the same amount, you know, so for the Harvest Fest, for, I'm just going through this list here.
Yeah, so
For it's all
okay, so-
about the river.
Okay,
for-
so that'd be, okay, let's just, on that note, given the same as last year, so let's just start at the top and see what we come up with, okay? The high school, the bursary, 1,500. We did agree to help out that senior group, so are we committed, we're committed to that insurance money? Okay, so 557. 0 on the Marine Search and Rescue. Harvest Fest, 2,000, same as last year. Gallup Canal, we gave nothing. It's All About It River, 1,200. Iroquois Lawn Bowling, 500. Iroquois Firefighters, 2,000. Iroquois Business Group, now last year, they ended up with 2,000, now this year they've added more into that group. If we just said 2,000 of the 6, let's just see what number we come up with at the end. Beyond 21, 0. We've already dealt with Matilda. Historical Society, 1,000. Morrisburg Parade, 2,000. Tubi Festival, 500. Canada Day, 3,000. Yeah, take out the nothing, so 0 for Matilda versus the 4,000. I got about 31,000. Yeah, I had 15, yeah, and 15,000 for JW. That gives us about 31,000, 32,000, my rough cut. How much? 31,257.
That's our budget. We had 80, we had 50.
Yep. We have 80, we're giving out 81. We'll add that back on top.
Oh, well, I'll screw up my percentage now.
Yeah, you're done. Caveat being, right, there's always working reserve, you know, during the year, we'll see what we had left over from 2024. If somebody comes back looking for something that didn't get in, you know, we could always look at that. Yeah, yeah.
So through you, Mayor, and I don't know if this is the time, and I can bring it back at a council meeting if that's more appropriate, so I look to the clerk too, is when I look at all these groups, and to the deputy mayor's point, how we see some groups donate back to other groups, and then it's kind of, everybody's helping everybody, which is exactly what we want to happen. Perhaps we also need to be the leaders of that. Connecting, you know, volunteer organizations and community organizations to those sources. So for example, and I'm gonna use Tubi Committee, if they raise, let's say, you know, $1,500 or $1,600, and we have someone on this list that maybe we couldn't fund, but that was looking for funding, like perhaps we can link that. And I think it would be a good opportunity for groups to start working together as well towards a goal of whatever, you know, I think of the Earl Baker Recreation Fund, like there's, you know, we have partners in our organization for community funding as well. So something to look at and consider, because I think it might help fund some of these opportunities that we as a tax base can't afford right now, but these organizations that are having these events can raise the
Yeah,
money and then refund.
I think partly my vision and thought process is when we transitioned the community and economic committee into one
Yeah.
was, and they've been coming, but not as often. We're having more, adding that to our agenda topic of when they come to that and we talk about what their events are and, you know, finding out like, yeah, we're gonna donate money here and there. We could say, hey, did you know we've had a request from this group? So maybe that would be someone you might consider giving to, right? And that's what your point is. So
Yeah.
I think we could do that through our committee. We just need to, you know, Tia Fraser Dupuy, we could add that on, you know, as we do the delegations, they come, is to add that as part of our work, right?
Yeah.
Make it more known, I
Yeah.
think, because it's not known
Yeah, it's
today,
not
right?
known.
Is your point, yeah.
So I think if we could facilitate that a little
Yeah,
bit better,
yeah,
then maybe
well-
this list will dwindle down
Sure.
over time, because these
Yeah.
groups will hook up with each other
Yeah.
and raise money for each other,
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so Deputy Mayor set up, we both sit on that committee, so we'll make sure we bring it out. I think that's a good point. Yeah, so I think end result, municipal grants and donations, we just mimic last year's requests, and that's what we're, you know, able to do for 2025. I think that's a fair amount. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, so whenever I first looked at this list, there was a few on there for me that were priorities. Number one was the Seaway bursary. We'll continue
Yes.
doing that. And then after that was to make sure that all four quadrants
Yes.
got the event. The two fireworks shows,
Yep.
those were must-haves on my list.
Yeah.
Williamsburg's getting their Harvest Fest, and then Matilda and Princeton is getting their events up there. So those were the five things that my for sure's that had to happen, and after that was
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I agree with you on that. Exactly. And that's great. And it's nice that it's kind of the same groups. We haven't seen a lot more people added. I mean, yes, they've asked for more money. Okay, why wouldn't you ask for more? But I think it's, the list is kind of stable on that, so, that's nice for community groups. Okay, any other budget items we want to dive into? Did anybody else have a side list of something they wanted to discuss that we might not have got into on those departments?
No. I think that staff did a very good job of reducing.
Yeah, no, so certainly I think, coming forward from staff, so thank you for the requests and the feedback from the 6. You kind of had the conversations over the last month with everybody. I know we've all had conversations on different items and thoughts, so we'll go there. Councillor Smith?
Is there still vehicles in fire that have to be finalized?
So it's just the fleet reserve, so we
We don't, okay, so it doesn't, okay.
yeah, we need to, interesting enough, I thought the conversation might come to the fleet. So I did take a look at I have the 2022, the 2023 budget from our first month at council, taking a look at the reserve numbers on fleet. When we got elected, we were very quickly gaining into a big deficit in fleet, and we've, through some great work with the fire service and some of the other groups, and then our contributions to the fleet reserve, we've been pushing, we're still at deficit in the future, but we've been pushing out some of those big amounts that were gonna come this year. We were looking at $1 million deficit for 2025, and we don't have that this year. We have 100 or 200,000 to the good on the fleet side. So those numbers are pushing out through the years as we continue to come up with strategies, ideas, working with the department. So overall, the fleet, we're not perfect in the amount, but we're pushing this is what well we can do. This is keep pushing out, coming up with good ideas, and to keep it to a reasonable tax rate without, buying a whole bunch of vehicles at once, and keep working on those. Yep. Councilor Ward?
Can I ask a question? I'm just looking to Treasury to just finalize what the actual municipality of South Dundas only tax rate is, and then what the combined with SDG rate is, and then what that looks like on the average house, what the increase is, if you don't mind, please.
Through you, Mayor Broad. So the new, just South Dundas, tax increase
Yep.
is 5.45?
5.45.
Yes.
5.45.
And if we include it with the upper tier and education, we're at 4.59 increase.
4.59 to the resident.
Yes.
Overall, SDG, school, SD.
And of course, we will verify all that
Yes.
tomorrow and make sure
Sure.
that everything
Yeah.
is as discussed this evening. One other thing I do want to bring up, because we did talk about reserves a lot and funding some of this additional through reserves. So with the changes,
Yep.
the funding going into reserves is approximately 3.5 million, and the funding coming out of reserves is around 4 million. So we are depleting our reserves a bit
Yeah.
with everything.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Just
we a
another
little more than that.
20,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Approximately 8.4 million.
8.4 million. 8.4 million. I think it's really important, it's good work, it's good, like, growth is coming online. Growth is coming online, it can't happen fast enough, but it's coming online, so that's gonna support. Yeah, we just need, I think this is lower than I don't want to get quoted incorrectly, this is a good number. This is a good number for the residents, like,
Without sacrificing too much.
yeah, and I don't think I think we'll maintain service. We'll use some of our reserves, but we'll pass on, I think, a very fair number, increase to each resident, where they could feel that the council and staff, like, this is, we're all in this together, right? Because, you know, the managers and then all the people on the ground and everybody working in administration, they have to deliver all of this based on this dollar amount. So I think it's great. Any other comments from the council team before we wrap up? CO Mills?
I've never been one to put words in your mouth, but can I?
Yes, sure.
There will be no need for a meeting on Wednesday night,
There'll
correct?
be no need for a meeting Wednesday night. No. Councilor Smith,
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
double click.
So just to, what, at this number here, 4.59, I was gonna be happy if we got to the actual rate of inflation, which I believe was like 3.6 or 3.8 or something, wasn't it, like actual, and
Yeah, I think it depends.
I knew
Yeah,
that we
you-
would probably.
I think it depends where you look and how you.
Yeah, I knew that we would probably never get there,
Yeah,
but that was
yeah.
truly, like,
Yeah.
so, the blended rate 4.59, that's actually, it's closer than I thought we were gonna get, like, honestly, it was, so.
I think we need to recognize we still have an asset management deficit, right? And I think that was Treasurer Stewart's point of we're spending from reserve. So, like I started to say, growth is coming online, right? And that's going to be a big benefit. Councilor Vino did ask me about MPAC. So, I did not have something prepared because I thought what we could do is take away a request. We are going to be at Roma next weekend. We're going to have a chance to sit in on the MPAC sessions, and then we will have floor time at the trade show to be able a chance to talk to MPAC. I know they're not going to tell us when the next MPAC assessment is coming, but Councilor Vino's request was, could we understand and put together a little communication to residents on how MPAC assessments negatively affect the work we do, and then when the assessment comes, how things change, right? So I think it's a good topic for discussion as we're going to be, it's 2016 since the last MPAC, that's going to be 8 years, we're going to be 10 or 12 years, so the people won't even, it's so far forgotten of how that works, how that changes things, how the tax rate, how we look at budgeting, you know, all gets affected in that. So I think we'll come back and maybe from Roma with some info and then put together a communication. I think, does that meet your request? Yeah, I think your point was you wanted to be able to have a conversation with residents of what it means, right? And get better knowledge. And CO Mills, we can have, our representative is from MPAC.
Joyce Carvel.
Right, she
Through
could
you,
come,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah, Joyce could come and give another presentation as well. We had her, geez, a year ago or 18 months ago, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We can have her back.
It's mostly to do with the relationship between tax rate and the assessed value of your home and what that looks like whenever it comes to budgeting annually for us, right? Because we're budgeting on numbers from 2016 in a lot of cases. So
Right.
That was kind of the communication I wanted to be able to explain to.
Yeah, how it all
residents
ties
and-
together, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you know, you're still gonna have to pay taxes and it's gonna be a lot, but how does your assessment work? And then when the next MPAC assessment does come, how does that play into, comparing, you know, if a resident was to move here, well, your tax rate is X, well, versus somebody else's, like, how's that play in, right? You know, if our property values are higher, then the tax rate is lower, right? Because we're collecting more from the people that have higher tax assessed value would pay more of the taxes versus the lower folks, right? So it all plays into that. And understanding that is not easy. Yeah, very good. Councilor Smith, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things with MPAC not reassessing their houses is, so the last phase in growth that we had was in 2020, I believe it was. Like, so if you just look at the growth number from, 18, 19, 20, you had like that free 200,000, I guess you'd almost call it free. So you almost had a built-in 3% tax increase before you even had to start with your own tax increase. So it was hidden. You could blame it on somebody else. It was because the value of your property went up, and that's why you're paying more taxes. So, but now the blame is solely on us, right?
Yeah,
So
there's no
that-
blend of
there's-
tax
yeah,
changes and
right.
assessment changes. And things.
Exactly,
Yeah, there's no blend for
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
So, I keep telling everybody that 5 is the new 2, and they don't understand.
Deputy Mayor?
Well, since we're just having an open discussion, I think what the other thing, Tom, you kind of mentioned it, you know, about 3% or whatever was in COLA. But that's a blended rate, right? So you got to look at all of the stuff that we use like fuel, for instance. Fuel is not 3%. Fuel is at $1.45, $1.50 is much higher,
Because
right?
pavement, all those things
Yeah,
associated.
exactly, exactly. So you're correct. AC index, pay, all that stuff, right? So you just gotta be, you know, and I always kind of look at it as well, and I kind of have to think about it. I mean, we could say COLA is 3%, but that does not mean it's just a 3% impact to what we do on a daily basis, right? So, and again, and you're right, Cole, I always need a good lesson on taxation and how it impact. I mean, at the end of the day, if it costs a municipality $1 million more year after year, well, just because there's assessment, it doesn't mean that's costing us $5 million more year after year. It's still $1 million to do maintenance and operation. So how does that impact, and how is that going to fit in, and what is the actual cost to the resident, even if their assessment goes up? Their assessment goes up, but it still only costs us $1 million more a year to do operation maintenance. So understanding and continuing understanding that more is key. So then we can explain it, I can understand it and explain it. And
Especially when it's gotta come someday soon, like you
correct.
can't continue to.
You wouldn't
I guess
think.
You wouldn't think, I guess we'll find out.
One day, somebody will be able to lower, a council at a time will be able to lower the tax rate whenever the phased increases come in.
Correct. What is hurting us is, you know, I'm not gonna go on a soapbox. What's hurting us is the federal, pulling their 1/3 funding opportunity. What's hurting us is the carbon tax. What's hurting us, you know, is a multiple of lack of funding just in general. That's what's hurting us. So, you know, who knows? We know what's gonna happen in the next 4 to 6 months. We believe we know what the results are gonna be in the next 4 to 6 months with a federal election. Who knows what, you know, it's gonna take time for them to, if they wanna change the policies and the bylaws. But on the other hand, that might be a benefit to everybody. But on the other hand, we know, unfortunately, south of the border, what they're talking about in the tariffs, and how is that gonna hurt us? So I think over the next 6 to 8 to 10 months, there's still gonna be uncertainty in the market. So I think this is a good budget. I think this is a good tax increase and a fair one. And hopefully we do get to the point where we can get back to, you know, the 4 or 5%, and that's covering operation maintenance and putting some money in our reserves. I'm skeptical on that, but hopefully one day we'll get that. But that comes with accountability and accounting.
Yep. And
Quote that,
we are
Dennis.
at the Rural Ontario Municipal Conference next weekend. We have delegations, we have several delegations with ministers and infrastructure, hydro, webinar, we have lots of, so we'll be discussing all these topics about South Dundas and Eastern Ontario with all our ministers, and you've seen a good influx of ministers lately coming to Eastern Ontario, so we'll continue to be supportive and selling what we're doing, for sure. Okay, let's wrap her up. I have a motion that council review the proposed adjustments, provide direction to staff. Staff will incorporate council's feedback into the final 2020 budget document for formal approval. So, motion, Councillor Ward, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, get on the right color here, all in favor, carried. So that'll get us for those updates that we made to the budget, and a motion that council now adjourned to meet at the call of the chair. Councillor Ward, Councillor Smith, all in favor? Carried. Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody's efforts. Thanks for everybody participating. Thanks for watching online. And Happy New Year, and let's get 2025 off to a great start. Thank you to staff that are all with us tonight that helped us execute the budget tonight. Thanks to the council team. Incredible number we're at based on everything that's gone on and all the funding we're trying to do. So